Interracial couples, what was the biggest difference you had to get used to? I'm a white dude married to a black woman. I had no idea about the whole culture of hair upkeep for black women, how much it costs, how much time it takes, and how much it's a connection point for her and other women. Interestingly, what was a bigger adjustment had nothing to do with race. I'm an only child, and she is one of 5, so obviously, the family dynamics are quite different. Next month, we will be married for 24 years, so I guess it's all good. Culturally, Asian men do not talk about their problems or stress. It's a sign of masculinity to just quietly bear it all, so when things get rough, whether inside or outside of the relationship, my husband just becomes really quiet. At first, I thought maybe he was just really focused or motivated at the time. He doesn't express anger at all, but at the same time, he doesn't express anything at all. That's when I know something is up with him. Coming from a half Latino household, we are very loud and expressive, especially when we are stressed out, worried, or angry. The Asian and Latino cultures are so opposite in so many ways, but yet so alike. It's quite a journey being married to an Asian man. I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest. I think bringing cultures together through love is one of life's greatest things to witness and be a part of. As a white man married to a black woman in the early 70s, we had a lot of problems while in Los Angeles, her hometown. Her dad and brother never spoke to me. Her mother was the salt of the earth. She hugged and kissed me on our first visit. We seemed to have problems of some type anywhere we went. We moved to my part of the world, South Louisiana, and had no problems. We lived in a Creole community, were invited to every get-together, danced at the redneck bars, and went to church where there were only 3 white people. My family never spoke to me again. I was not related by blood, but I never saw such stupidity. She passed away, but we would still be together if she were alive. I think the fact that we're also a gay couple overshadows the fact that we're interracial. My husband, who's white, ends up with more to adjust to, since he took my Asian last name. He gets double takes whenever he gets called up for an appointment or something, but that's been the worst of it. No weird looks afterward or anything. We're very lucky in that pretty much everyone we interact with is perfectly fine with same-sex, interracial couples. The worst I ever got was one of my daughter's kindergarten classmates asking me why my daughter doesn't look like me. This was just a curious 5-year-old, though, nothing nefarious. I gave a quick explanation of how adoption works in terms of someone else being the bio parents, and then everyone went about their day. I've been in several interracial relationships as a white guy. The black girls I dated were mostly of the same culture as me. I didn't feel there was much difference, though one girlfriend did mention getting weird looks in a restaurant in my tiny, almost entirely white hometown. So, there were some differences I learned about. Also, their hair was big and made spooning difficult sometimes without ending up with a face full of it. My current partner of 8 years is Asian and originally from Vietnam. There are a lot of little cultural things that crop up with her, especially regarding childcare. We've had to make a lot of compromises back and forth on some things, and we still occasionally butt heads a bit. It doesn't help that we're both stubborn as mules, lol. She's more independent than many of her contemporaries from back home. Not sure if that's from having been here for so long or if she was always that way. Relationships always take work. When you're dating outside of your own culture, you have to be more willing and able to put in that work, I think. But I also think it's a good thing. It makes you both more cognizant of these things. But people are people wherever you go. The big one. The extent to which casual racism and prejudice are still present, which I, as a white man, was completely oblivious to. This includes both racism directed at minorities, everything from taking longer to get served at the bar to direct, unambiguous hate and prejudice within minority communities, refusing to hire certain other minorities, preferential treatment for lighter skin tones, etc. Some other observations. If we go away anywhere for any length of time, there is a ridiculously long list of family and friends we need to buy gifts for. When we visit anyone, no matter how frequently, we need to take a gift. It's now a budgeted line item, really. My value as a man is, first and foremost, a function of my career and only my career. Doctor, lawyer, engineer, anything else, in that order. It's how I'll be introduced. This is Skukza, he's an engineer, and then I'm accepted as having a certain social standing by default. Big extended community parties are awesome. The men drinking whiskey while the women clean up afterwards is somewhat problematic. It has been mentioned, but the low context high context stuff took a while to get used to, and it can still drive me up a wall sometimes. My husband is Japanese, I'm American, and early on in the relationship, I'd make some kind of stupid faux pas, like taking a drink right away when offered. He'd clam up and refuse to talk about it. I would need to needle him for literal hours to figure out what was wrong, and then when he would tell me, I'd be like, I'm not a damn mind reader, you have to tell me when I screw up. He'd say, you have to be a mind reader, because in Japan, everyone is hyper aware of this kind of little stuff to the extent it practically is mind reading. 16 years later, I am way more attuned to this than I was as a dumb college sophomore, and he is much better about communicating when stuff like this comes up, but it took a while to get there. The biggest difference we had to get used to was the language barrier between my side of the family and him. I'm Mexican and come from immigrant parents, while he's white. Another major difference is how we interact with each other in our families. I was raised to be extremely polite, not talk back, and respect my elders. So, when we have family functions, I have to individually go up to everyone, shake their hand, give them a hug, and ask how they've been. His family, on the other hand, is very casual and rarely asks about each other. Another big difference is how our families function. My family is more community-oriented, where everyone helps each other out when in need and rises up together. His family has more of a, you're on your own, mentality, where it's your responsibility to make something out of yourself by yourself. Additionally, I've had to deal with microaggressions and micro-racism from his side of the family, but they've reassured me they aren't at all racist because their son is dating a woman of color. I'm white, and my wife is black. The most noticeable thing is how our families do holidays. Christmas with my family is a lot more formal. We dress nicely, break out the fine china, all sit down at the table together to eat, etc. Christmas with her family, paper plates, solo cups, everybody is walking around eating, and grandpa is asking where the weed is, lol. It's a vibe. I honestly like it way more than what I'm used to. Another big difference is how we view having a dog. We have a dog, and I'm okay with him being in the kitchen while I'm cooking, but she never wants him around when she's cooking. I grew up with dogs, and so did she, but her family just never allowed them in the house. She seasons everything. Sweet Jesus, I love her cooking. White people don't season shit, lol. Everything she makes is amazing, and I love trying new things that she grew up making. She surprises me to this day with her cooking. We view money very differently. I make an effort to save money and hold on to it as long as I can, while her family has no problem giving each other money whenever they ask, knowing that it'll come back around one day. It's more of a community resource than a personal one. And her temper. I have learned to never piss that woman off because when she snaps and the accent comes out, it's over for me, lol. We have a 6-month-old daughter who we both love so much, and we are figuring out how to raise her properly in a way that we can both agree with. God, I love that woman. She completes me as a man, and I could not ask for anybody better. If you're reading this, Diana, just know that I love you so much, and all my history on this account was somebody else and not me. My wife is from the Philippines, and even though it was something I anticipated and prepared for, the issue still comes up that she just doesn't have an American food palate. She still is able to find foods here to eat and makes use of Asian markets and online Asian food ordering apps and websites, but there were a lot of times early on after she got here that it was difficult to find foods to make for dinners, lunches, etc., that she would eat. I would always say or think, this food is good, why don't you want to eat it? But she had strong cravings for the food she was used to. Even the food we got from the Asian supermarkets or online wasn't and isn't the same as what she got in the Philippines. It has gotten better over the years, but she still has a hard time every now and then when she wants food that I just cannot possibly give her, fresh fish and shells from her home island being a good example. It's not anything that becomes a major issue, but it is something to anticipate, and it does make you feel helpless when you want to give them everything possible to make them happy and content, but sometimes you just can't, and you have to figure out how to deal with it. The racism. I married a Latino. My stepdad was Latino. I was raised to believe we are all God's children. My mom's as white as the Queen Mum. I would have store clerks refuse to wait on me when they found out my name. When I divorced, what I thought were perfectly decent guys put on the brakes hard when they found out my kids were biracial or that I had kids at all. I even had one woman tell her daughter she couldn't play with mine because she was Latina. She asked me how I could stand to have a Mexican touch me. It was 18 years before I even started dating again. I saw the world in a whole new way. Why were Band-Aids only peach and not my daughter's color? I could walk into a room and immediately size it up. Why were there only white people there? Why was I asked to provide the whole school staff with tamales? But there was something wonderful too. When I walked into a classroom to teach and the kids found out my name, all the brown kids were immediately alert. Like a light came on inside their brains. They finally had a teacher who was more like them. And they smiled. That fog of apathy had been lifted. They knew full well they were treated differently because of their skin color. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on the best Reddit stories.